great honour of introducing Marlin Troyer from Michigan, USA. Marlin was born on a dairy farm in 1980. He's that young. He grew up doing construction, log homes, but was always involved with the animals and animal training. He worked in retail for 10 years, from 2000 to 2010, and Marlin then went on into camels, and he's been milking and breeding camels for 7 years now, and founded the Camel Milk Association. Marlin's family care for 45 camels and a herd of beef and highland cattle as well, among other animals. This year he plans to open a safari park with camel rides, a petting zoo and a corn maze. And gee whiz, you've got a lot on your plate coming up. A corn maze on the state highway near Michigan there. He also serves as a volunteer chaplain and is an active member of the local fire department. Marlin's talk today is, I guess, a reflection, he's saying, on his experience and knowledge that he's gathered from running a small camel milk dairy, and I think there's a lot of what Marlin will have to say that will be of great interest to a lot of people here who are just running a small operation or just starting out. So with no further ado, I'd like you to help me in welcoming Marlin up.
Well, thank you very much. Wow, that's a lot of information that we had over the past 2 days, wasn't it? Anybody feeling overwhelmed?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day.
Okay, well, relax. I'm going to be talking about the basics. I'm going to be talking about the practicalities of the farm itself. And we're going to do a lot of pictures, a lot of word pictures. So, first off, I want to thank, before I even start, I want to thank Mark, Lethbridge, and Michael for their invitation, and everybody else, your friendship. I'll give a special thanks to Chris O'Hare for putting in a good word for me, or O'Hara, if I can say it correctly. He trained me, he was up there to our place last year. We had a little camel conference up there that Doug Baum puts on, and Bill Rivers, the legendary animal actor. Coming to Australia, believe it or not, is a lifelong dream of mine. So as a schoolboy, I loved geography, it was my favorite subject, and I always wanted to come down to the people down under, where you did everything upside down and backwards, and the land of the kangaroo and the platypus. Love it. Always wanted to come here and see it. I'm going to come back. So, just a warning. I never thought at that time that I would be coming here because of a common interest we have of both of our countries. We have a non-native animal, and the interest in that non-native animal, the camel, is what would bring me here. I never dreamed that. So, in this interest is what I want to talk about here today, and specifically about camel dairying. Our environment, our industry up there is very similar to yours in some ways, very different in other ways. And I want to do a non-disclosure right off the bat. Okay, this is not going to be, I'm not a professional speaker, I'm not a professional writer, so I hope all the grammar police and the spelling police are not patrolling today. So we're going to just talk about some things. I tried to be organized and I failed. So we're going to be jumping around a little bit, okay? So hopefully you can follow me. I'm going to try to keep it simple. But as we go through the pictures, we're going to draw lessons from them and try to get direction from them. And I'm also going to be open for questions, because the forum is going to be kind of open and kind of a word picture as we go through. I'm going to be open for interruptions as we go, to a certain extent. I might say, we're going to cover that later. If that happens, I'm going to repeat the question so the question is recorded as well. So as we go through here, first I want to thank my wife, introduce my family for her support, her allowing me to come. I said, I looked at the high-profile speakers that were going to be here, Lulu and others that names that I don't pronounce well, scientists, people that have been in the industry very long. And so I felt very intimidated. I said, I'm just this guy out in the middle of nowhere, enjoying my life. I happen to be on the internet because of the time that we live in. And they're asking me to speak. And my wife says, you'll do just fine. He says, you have your own story. You have your own life. Don't worry about them. Just tell them what we do. And so I want to thank her for that. And so this is my wife, Savannah, and my 3 boys, Ray, Tristan, and Bradley. And then this is our extended family, our Camels. I'm going to use the clicker, I guess. So what I want to talk about today, and what they asked me to talk about, was quality and production. How do we increase the production? And I made a suggestion, and Mark kindly obliged. I said, we also need to talk about profitability, because as a small dairy that is pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps, we have to be profitable from day one. Okay, we cannot operate like some people have the privilege of operating. We have to self-fund as we go. Now I tried to organize a little bit, quality, quantity, and profitability, but I wasn't really able to do that because they're also very interlinked, aren't they? They're all interlinked. And that's kind of the way life is in general. So what I did is, I'm going to talk a little bit about marketing yourself. I was in retail for 10 years, and the one lesson I learned in retail, and I established my own retail business and a catalog, and that business is still doing very, very well. The person that I trained to do it came right out of school, and he and his father was a business partner with me, but the son is the one that runs the business now, and the business looks just like it was the day I left, except of course he innovated and improved on it. So there's something to be said about what we've already heard today. We need to run a business and get the good people in that we want. But there's also something to be said about how are you going to do that this one thing I learned is you won't be able to sell something unless you're able to sell yourself, right? So the first order of business is you have to have people appreciate who you are and what you do. And do they admire us because of our lifestyle, because of our good business practices, or why do they want to buy from us? That is something that I discovered is, and I'm not saying this to brag, but I'm saying this is how the public works. This is how their minds work. Okay, if they appreciate you of who you are and what you stand for, they're going to want to buy from you. So, but be genuine. Don't try to put up a facade, because I can guarantee you that will fail. So be genuine. Be the person that you want to be, and have the lifestyle that people admire. And so that's why I have the photo of the garden here. Where do we want to be? Why do we want to do what we want to do? That's questions that we need to answer to have the right people welcomed into the business. How many of us here today are milking camels, or now? How many are actually milking? Okay, so that's quite a substantial amount. How many are planning to milk or planning to work in the industry? We have 1, 2, at least. Okay, so you're probably going to feel a little overwhelmed, but I want you to relax. The thing that I learned, how many of us have said, and I'm still a pretty young guy, 1980 model, like you said, and that would be very old if I was a Ford, but I'm luckily not. But if You said later, you said, well, you know, if I'd have known what all was involved, I'd have never done it, right? Have anybody ever had that experience? Okay, so just relax and take one day at a time. Be open-minded and inquisitive. And don't overthink things. Don't overthink. We're completely overwhelmed with all good and relevant information. I've not heard anything in these topics that isn't relevant to the business. But relax. You don't have to know it every day. I mean, everything from the first day. So our culture comes from our philosophy. Let's never forget that. Every one of us has a culture that we bring with us, and we're establishing a culture for our future. We accomplish what is important to us. Let's remember that. So if you go throughout your business will grow, and you're going to take care of the areas of your business that is important to you. That's going to happen. So we need to learn to set our priorities. And are you going to fail, or are you going to do this and succeed, or are you going to fail? It all depends on how much vested interest you have in what you're doing and what you're going to do, what your plans are, and how important it is to you. So you need to have a vision that goes further than what Chris O'Hara said here a little while ago, that you're just in it for a quick buck. Because I'll tell you right now, if you're in it just for a quick buck, you might make that quick buck. You're not going to have any friends, but you might not either. You might not make that quick buck, and you might just be one of those people that walk away from it. So find out what it is that you want to do before you do it. If you do that, you're probably going to succeed. There's a good chance that you're going to succeed, because when is going to be the easiest time to get in this business if you're feeling overwhelmed? Is it now, or is it 10 years from now? When I started this business, and I call it a business because farming today is a business. We have to look at it as a business. We have to approach it with business sense. We have to follow all the same rules that a business does. But we have an animal business. And we have a people business. It's the funnest business to be in, because I love animals. And so you get to have a lifestyle that you want with your animals. So it's a great way to live. It's a great way to raise your kids. So let's think about the next generation when we do things. In this whole thing is the focus of planning. Okay, we want to plan things out. I've made this comment recently multiple times, that I try not to have a plan. I find life more exciting not to have a plan. And I'll tell you why that is, because every opportunity that I have in my life, which I look back over my short life, which really is pretty short, I'm surprised at the opportunities that came. And if I look back, never once have I just said, you know what, I want to do this. I've always simply got up and opened the door of opportunity that was presented to me. And I find that very exciting in life, because you're not planning your own life. As a Christian, you allow God to lead your life. So you just open opportunities. When you try to go through a wall, sometimes it doesn't work the best. So in your planning, what is the bottom line that we want? We have a medicinal market, primarily, in the United States. And you have a large part of your market here in Australia is the same market that we have. So what you're doing is you want a healthy environment. You're trying to create a healthy environment for the kids that the milk goes to, and you need a healthy environment for your farm. So that needs to be your bottom line underpinning of what you're after, is a healthy environment. And I'm not a liberal greening when I say that. It's simply the fact that we're all better off when we have a nice, clean, healthy environment. It's about practicality. It's about what's best for you and I and our kids, children. So quality is pursued and with persistence and reevaluation. And I have this slide up several times because I'm going to look at this. I want you to remind yourself, because once I get out of these slides, we're not going to go back to them. So this is something I want to impress on you now before we continue with everything. And then we're going to click to it to bring you back to the focus. test and be observant. So you're going to do it with persistence and constant reevaluation of what you do. Life is all about reevaluating what I have done in the past and planning about what I can do in the future. All the older gentlemen in here know that. And then quality is maintained through repetition and redundancy. So the definition of redundancy is not what we want, right? Redundancy would be something that simply is not necessary to do. But once we have something in place, we know it works, we need to hang on to that, keep repeating it, and redundancy, you would think it's redundant, but it's not. So that's why I put it in the redundancy. So a lot of life is about getting up in the morning and going to bed at night, right? It's the same thing over and over. What we do in between changes, but a lot of life is about redundancy. So if you're going to maintain a quantity, once you establish what works, or where you're getting the quantity that you're looking for, you always want to improve, right? But once you have something that works, you're going to stick with it. You're not going to jeopardize that because of some other crazy idea you have or somebody comes along. So you keep doing that with repetition and redundancy. And that applies to quality as well. And then when you're doing that, in doing that, you need to audit yourself, because as you heard, you have people working for you. So you have to have multiple layers of inspection. So when it comes to providing clean milk, and this goes back to quality, is it only takes one small speck, the size of a pinhead, of a microfilm, a biofilm, to put up your coliform count. So this is where repetition and redundancy comes in, and auditing multiple layers of inspection and doing things that you don't think are necessary. Because you're going to wash that bucket irregardless if you think it's clean or not. You're going to do what you know works. So quality is improved through innovation. You never stop improving. You always go forward. You keep thinking of better ways. And we're going to look at a few of those things that we've done as we go through this slide, where we're not where we're at when we started out. And I've just heard something today here that I didn't even know, and that is that there's a cup out there specifically made for camels. So I want you to get me that source, because I want to improve. So here we have, I'm gonna go straight into the bull, because I'm gonna get the ugly out of the way, and that is talking about the dangers of a bull. I have two bulls, and what I do is, so basically, I'm not going to talk about it, but look at the wheelbarrow. Okay, I was at this guy's farm in Indiana, and he asked me if I'd buy a bull. And as I walked into the barn, I noticed the wheelbarrow, and I said, "Who did that?" He said, "The bull did that." And so the guy was honest with me. He said, he was walking down, he was looking at it, and the bull came out of the opening in the stall with his head and snapped at me about 6 inches from my head. And he could have jerked me right inside and destroyed me. I told him I wouldn't take that bull if you gave him to me. So I wouldn't do it. So safety for you and your employees. Train your employees properly for safety camel handling. There's a lot of basic things that you need to tell them. You know, hands in the air, having a stick, that anything that's above their head will intimidate them. And so safety for your employees. In getting employees, of course, we've heard a lot about that. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm lucky. I have family working for me. Paul Schwartz here is my brother-in-law, and he does a good job. He's dedicated. He's happy to just be there on the farm. Allows me to do the outside farm work and do the business end of things. And then I have two young men these are my head team. This is 17-year-old Nehemiah, and this is his brother-in-law, McGill. And they work together very well. Nehemiah is only 17 years old, but he's my foreman for the new safari park. This man is teachable. and he is just extremely intelligent, and I of course give him oversight. But the reason he's my foreman is not because he's so smart and knows everything, it's because he listens to me, and he looks up to me, he respects me. If you have an employee that doesn't respect you, don't keep them around. They're not worth it. It causes nothing but frustration. If they don't respect you, they don't respect your lifestyle, they don't respect who you are and what you stand for, you have no need for them. They will only take you down. That's all they're going to do. And they're going to be the type of people that are going to call all these enforcers on you when they leave, once you have fired them. Because those type of people you're not going to fire until you're frustrated with them. So just get rid of them right away. You know if somebody respects you or doesn't respect you just by how they look at you. Don't keep them around. So we're going to go back to this slide again as a reminder, and then we're going to not stay there very long, but you can just refresh yourself. And then I'm going to talk about buying that camel. If we're looking to buy a camel in Australia, obviously it's much different than the United States, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. But what I am going to say is I find out I'm best off buying a young camel if you're going to buy one at a time. If you can buy a whole herd, you can go ahead and buy a whole herd and get the good, the bad, and the ugly together, and then you weed them out. But in America, if there's one camel for sale, there's probably a reason there's one for sale. And then the part of the ugly is livestock or dead stock. Be prepared for the losses. So all of us that are livestock owners, we know that we're going to have dead animals, and it breaks our hearts every time. A lot of you people have seen this on Facebook. This was a really good bull. It hurt to lose him. He was gentle. You could lead him around, and he would do the job. And he got caught, his hump in between that 4x4 and the other post, and he pushed himself up in there. This was a summer day. He had no reason to be inside, but I think he decided to roll himself there. He was trying to get in the shade. The barn door was wide open. I don't know what happened, but it's a freak accident. He killed himself right there, choked himself. Be prepared for the losses. Try to do what you can to reduce the risks. Do what you can. But the fact of the matter is, crap happens, right? It just does. And so you have to try to always run your business structure in such a way that you can recoup from those losses. Never max yourself completely out to where if you do have a loss, that you're just completely screwed now. I just can't get another bull. I can't afford another bull now. If you put yourself in that situation, you better rethink of where you're at with your business and your business plan. Look at the pinch points in your barns and how you do them. Here there was a young camel that went through the alleyway, and she was just a little bit big. Probably the last time she went through there, she fit through there. Well, gate is actually closed, and there's a drop off there, and she hung herself there, and you can see how she got guacamole in the back because of stress and of being pinched and caught. Well, we found her like that just this last Sunday night, and I had a problem with getting her out of there. And so she wasn't supposed to go through that way, but the gate at the other end of the barn was left open, and they went into the food alley, and she tried to get back inside. So it was just a mistake. Look at how you do things. We're still going to improve on those things. Pinch points from the bottom up. You know, you've got gates that are hinged. Sometimes you do homemade stuff. Between your post and your gate, from the bottom up, between your hangers, down to the top. Camels are very intelligent, but they also be very stupid. Okay? So we have to kind of look at those things. So they'll be trying to eat something on the other side, and if their neck fits into that gap, they'll hang themselves. Either from the bottom or from the top. They won't lower their head and get out. They'll just stand there and scream. Or they'll drop down and cush when they're caught from the top. And you can lose them that way, especially when there's a bar or a gate, or a latch that closes where they can pitch themselves. So just be aware of some of those things. Know your resources. In a business policy, something that I learned is always try to buy wholesale. So this is where it comes in with profitability. I said I would try to be coordinated, but I can't because now I'm dropping all the way to the bottom, profitability. Buy wholesale. Don't buy retail if you can buy wholesale. I use a lot of bleach in the kitchen, so I bought a whole skid of bleach. Yeah, I don't have to buy it for 5 years, but bleach has no expiration date. And I got a really good price for it, and I know I'm going to use it down the road because I'm going to still be in business then. And if not, I can get rid of it some other way. Buy by the semi-load, buy the best you can. Know your resources, including your veterinarian. This is my veterinarian. In California, she's been to my place twice, and she's the one that got me to do a fecal lab, which is, here she is doing training for me, and I'm doing a fecal sample right there. If you're going to do your own fecal lab, which is not hard to do, I would advise you to do 2 samples. Don't just do 1 sample, because again, check and double check and keep checking. I have no idea where we're at with our time. Let me look at this clock. Okay, so I would do 2. So it doesn't take that much long to do another one. Do 2 different poop samples, do 2 different tests, and compare them. Because sometimes you don't get them, you don't do something right. Your solution, if you're a small lab, your solution gets old. We use a sugar solution, and we use the modified stoles. It's a modified stole is the one we use. Anita Varga from Gold Coast Veterinary Service set me up, and she's willing to talk to you as well. You have some other really good veterinarians here that'll help you with that. And the modified stoles is really easy to read. It's the one that we found the best, and the sugar, using the sugar solution, works the best. But keep up to date with that. Go directly to the source, like we've already been told. I'm kind of a clean freak, which is good for my business. So I put on a little glove, and I grab that, and you reach in, grab the poop, and you pull it back out, and you just strip the glove inside out. Take a magic marker and write the name of the camel on the outside of your glove, throw it on a pile, and go to the next one. You're organized, you've got it, and it's in a nice little safe place. Take it up to your lab, and you're ready to go. Other health. When you're in the camel, this is a subject on quality, is you have to treat every single teat as an individual person, okay? And you have to recognize that this is where your money comes from, literally, okay? This is your paycheck. So treat every teat like an individual person. And the issue is, that's as far down as we can go, because we can't treat every canal like an individual person because it's just too much of a unit. If one canal is bad, giving a high somatic cell count or something, the whole quarter has to go, right? So the healthier you keep your environment, the drier you keep your camels, of course, the less problems you're going to have there. This is a lot about prevention. I am an extremely low input, and actually the more I've heard, I'm almost mimicking the Bedouin type farming, and I think Lauren was saying the same thing, with low input, low overhead, and trying to match nature was the best that we could to try to keep your expenses down. And the lower you keep your expenses, obviously the higher your bottom line is going to be, and that's what we need to be. That's what we need to do, is fund ourselves. In a situation like this, I was milking this camel, I would not do that again. If I had an abscess like this on a camel, I simply wouldn't put her in production. I would just pull her off. We ended up healing up the abscess. One thing you can do with abscesses is fill them up with a really strong antibiotic. What I did is I just kept it washed out with iodine, and we put topical treatment on it, and it really didn't heal up until after we used antibiotics. But what you do is you inject a strong antibiotic in there. Like right now we have Exceed. It's like a seven-day antibiotic, and that seems to kill everything in there, and it can heal from the inside out. We heal a lot of abscesses like that. Luckily, right now I don't have any abscess in any camel, which is phenomenal. That's the way I want to keep it. Last year we only had one. So what do we feed? This is a big question. We heard a lot about feedlots. And there seemed to be an assumption that we need to farm camels in order to milk them, we need to have them on a feedlot. I respectfully disagree. I don't think you need to have them on a feedlot like this. This is a farm down in Missouri. I know it's easier in a lot of ways, and you're talking about your inputs. You know exactly what every camel gets. I use a different approach. I have them out on grass anytime they want. Inside the barn, I have them on baleage or haylage full time. I have good quality alfalfa baleage, and then I also have dry grass hay mix they can have. So they get free choice dry grass hay, and they get baleage. And we're going to talk about baleage, but if you have a good quality pasture, where I'm at, and not everybody can do this, but you can do irrigate. You can irrigate a small paddock if you have enough proper nutrition in your paddock, and you have the proper organic matter there to push it, and you put that quality forage in there, and you rotate from one paddock to the other. With a little irrigation and a very small paddock, you can keep your actual milking camels on grass year-round, even in arid conditions. I can assure you that. It's going to take, again, what's important to you. Is it important to you? We're marketing to the medicinal market. They want to see camels eating greens. They don't want to see you just feedlotting them. This is the baleage. And the thing about the baleage is they will eat everything in the bale because it's all fermented together and it provides natural probiotic. I always supplemented, like from BioSI Technologies out of Texas, they make a product called Magic Jack for horses. It's soil-based organisms, and it really works well for maintaining the biology activity in the stomach the way that it needs to be. And I just put a little bit in the water. It helps keep the water clean, everything. The other thing we do now is vinegar. I have my dairyman go around and put several ounces of vinegar in the water every single day. We just do that as a blanket, and I don't know if that's good or bad. I would like to hear from professionals on that. But I figure it's a small amount. Whoever drinks first is going to get the vinegar. They're not going to get it every single day because it's one of those automatic waters, so it's going to be diluted quickly. But they get access to some vinegar constantly, a little bit. It's apple cider vinegar. It's organic. It has the, I don't know if this is proper terminology, but it's got the mother in it yet, or whatever you call it. Okay. So anyway, there's the bale in the alleyway. And we just peel off the bale a little bit, put it on the alleyway as we need it. We got camels on either sides. You're welcome to look at my videos on my website. The videos are actually not up to date. It seems like when the milk sells well and I have a waiting list, my marketing sags. And you know, I don't even have my latest things on the website, how we do our milk production. I don't even have it there. I kind of keep it as ammunition for if I need to tell people, hey look, this is what I'm doing, I'm really improving. So here we have the dry camels out on the pasture. And so these just came out of, so I live in an area where we get a lot of snow. We get 80 inches of snow every year. And so a lot of these camels are in the barn during the winter. So we just turned these out. This is the picture I took just before I got here. And you can see how lazy a camel can be, which is actually kind of cool because what happens when an animal is lazy, their metabolism slows down, they don't eat as much, they are more resourceful, everything is good. So I love when my camel is lazy because that means they're comfortable, they're relaxed, they're happy. A lazy camel is happy. So there she is laying down eating grass. What do we got here? We got dry hay up off the ground in a feeder that maintains the hay inside. And so these camels have free choice dry hay while they're out on green pasture. This pasture is actually shorter than what I want it to be, but I think the pasture will outgrow the number of livestock I have in it right now. This is my baleage for the winter, with the camels in the background. And so we go out there and you cut one bale at a time. Out of there, take it in, set it down, open it up, and distribute it. And you want to have enough animals where you don't get any mold. If there's mold, and I'm going to talk about this later, But, so what I've done is I raise my own hay. I raise all my own forage, which is a real blessing. So on my own farm, I pasture everything. I have 80 acres, I pasture everything. Across the road, I have another 200 acres that I make hay off of. And so now I have replanted all those fields into the forage of my choice, and they're all certified organic. All my pastures are certified organic. We don't produce organic milk per se, but we have organic practices that precede organic standards. But I simply don't need this legislature to come in and check up on me because I have no need for them. I'm not anti-government or anti what you guys want to do. I am organic in my fields. So the reason I'm certified organic in my fields is because I want to sell the excess hay. So my decision is based off of the bottom line. It's not based off of that I need to have an organic certificate to sell my camel milk. I can show, we can go straight to social media, you can go to the website, you can reach straight to the customer, you can tell them your practices. My members are welcome at my farm anytime. I'm completely transparent. They can come anytime. All they have to do is tell me when they're going to be there so I can make sure I can accommodate them. So they check up on me. They're welcome to go through my cabinets and they're welcome to look at my whole farm. The only thing they can't go into my house without invitation. So we have membership accountability. And they love it. They love transparency and they love that you're not afraid to tell them that you exceed industry standards, but there's maybe something that you do that is not in the books. You just tell them about it. They can see where your heart is and what you're trying to do, and that's what they're going to judge you by. The law is going to judge you by the book. Even if the practice is unacceptable for human health, if the book says it's okay, it's going to be okay. People are past that. They want to know what the farmer is going to do. They want to know the farmer intimately and personally, and they want to believe in you. That's what they want. So here we have, I'm going to talk a little bit about herd separation to reduce stress. So we talk about stress. The one thing we do is we rotate through. So what we do is we have a camel that we dry off. It goes into the dry herd, out back, a full quarter mile away from the rest of the herd. That creates separation. Whenever you separate a camel, you know what happens. They stress. If you take them far enough away,